The Azartian fleet appeared in the skies over Earth without warning, a dark cloud of ships that blotted out the sun. Massive warships, sleek and jagged, glinted under the harsh light of distant stars, descending from the heavens with an eerie, silent grace. The world held its breath as they came closer, the air thick with tension and disbelief. It was an invasion, not a negotiation, not a diplomatic exchange, an ultimatum. General Jackson Hughes stood on the balcony of the Pentagon, his sharp eyes watching the alien ships. His face was stoic, but beneath it a storm raged. He had led men into battle against human enemies before, but this was different. These aliens had the power to destroy everything. They made no promises of peace, no offers of truce. They came for war. "General, we need you in the command center." A voice broke through his thoughts. Hughes turned to see Colonel Luis Garcia, his second in command, stepping onto the balcony. Garcia's expression was a mix of determination and concern. His flight suit was scuffed and worn, a testament to the long hours he had spent on the front lines. "I'll be right there," Hughes muttered, his gaze lingering on the sky. They had only hours, maybe less, before the first strike. But time was a luxury no one could afford. The command center was filled with the hum of tense voices, the clatter of keyboards, and the unmistakable sound of impending doom. The joint military forces had scrambled every available resource, but Hughes knew deep down it wouldn't be enough. This wasn't just a battle for territory. It was a fight for survival. "We've received their message," Lieutenant James Owens said, his fingers tapping furiously on the keyboard. A holographic display flickered to life in front of them, showing a towering alien figure, regal in its form, its presence alone enough to send a shiver down any human spine. "Your world is insignificant," the message began, the alien queen's voice cold and commanding. "Bow to us, or we will burn your cities to ash. Surrender your people, or face extinction." The transmission ended with a flash, the message clear as day. There was no negotiation. They had come to destroy. "We don't have the luxury of time," Hughes said, his voice steady as ever. "We need to make them see we're not a race that bends to threats. We fight." The war room fell silent. The reality of what they faced was too stark, too real. But there was no room for fear. Sir Sergeant Malik Johnson, the youngest but no less experienced, spoke up from a corner of the room. His large, muscular frame was a testament to the years spent on the ground in the most brutal combat zones. His calm, methodical approach to every situation made him a force to be reckoned with. "We don't know enough about them. We don't know what they're capable of." "You're right, Sergeant," Hughes said, turning to the man. "We're going in blind. But we have one advantage: they underestimate us." As the leaders of the human resistance began to gather their thoughts, Hughes's mind raced. If they couldn't rely on numbers or technology, they had to rely on something else, something human. They had to outsmart the aliens. They had to adapt faster than they could. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Owens said, his voice suddenly sharp. "We've been intercepting their communications, and I've noticed a pattern. They're relying on a central hub to direct their forces. If we take it out, it could cripple their coordination." "Where is this hub?" Garcia asked, his eyes narrowing. "Near the western border of the Atlantic. It's a high-tech fortress, heavily guarded, but if we move fast, we could get there before they realize we're coming." Hughes considered it for a moment. The odds of success were slim, but it was their only chance. They couldn't afford to wait for the enemy to make the first move. If they did, it would be the end. He turned to his team, each of them standing tall, despite the uncertainty that loomed over them. "I'll lead the mission," Hughes said. "We'll hit them hard, and we'll hit them now. No second chances." Owens began typing furiously, assembling a team of elite soldiers to accompany Hughes. Garcia would lead an aerial assault to provide cover, while Johnson would head up a ground force to break through the defenses. The mission was set, and the team would move out in less than an hour. The weight of the task hung heavy in the air, but no one faltered. "I've got the tech side covered, General," Owen said, handing him a small device. "It's a prototype. I've hacked into their network. If we get close enough, I'll be able to disable their communications. It'll be a game changer." "Good," Hughes replied, tucking the device into his pocket. "Keep it quiet. No signals, no messages. We move as a unit. If we fail, we're done. Understand?" The room nodded in unison. There were no illusions here. This was their one shot. As they suited up and prepared to leave, Hughes found a moment to pause. He thought about the soldiers they had lost, the families they had left behind, and the planet they were fighting to protect. He thought about the people who had no idea what was coming, who were blissfully unaware of the threat hanging over them. And then he thought of the alien queen, the one who thought she could walk onto their soil and demand obedience. They would show her just how wrong she was. The team left the command center and boarded their transport, the hum of the engines a steady rhythm as they took to the sky. The landscape of Earth stretched out before them, vast and beautiful, yet filled with the shadow of the unknown. The mission was simple: infiltrate, disable, and destroy. And with their first strike, humanity would send a message to the aliens, one they wouldn't forget. "We'll make it through this," Johnson said, his voice calm, almost too calm. "We have to." And as the transport rocketed through the atmosphere, Hughes nodded silently. There was no turning back. The air was thick with dust and smoke as the human forces crept toward the Azartian fortress, nestled on the jagged cliffs overlooking the western Atlantic. The sky above was streaked with the last remnants of daylight, fading into a dull orange haze. Hughes, eyes narrowed, surveyed the terrain from the rear of his team. The weight of responsibility sat heavily on his shoulders, but there was no time for hesitation. They had to move fast. One wrong move, and the aliens would have them surrounded before they even got close. Garcia's fighter jets had already flown reconnaissance, and the intelligence Owens had gathered was promising. But the truth remained: they were flying blind. The Azartians were unlike anything humanity had ever faced, and their fortress was protected by a nearly impenetrable array of defenses. If the human assault failed, there would be no retreat. Hughes didn't allow himself to doubt. Not now. Not with so much at stake. "Movement ahead." Sergeant Johnson's voice came over the comm, sharp and controlled. "2 sentries on the ridge. We can take them out before they see us." Hughes nodded. The plan had been simple: get in, disable their communications hub, and destroy whatever alien tech they could find to cripple their efforts. But simple plans often went wrong in the heat of combat. The enemies they faced weren't just soldiers. They were aliens, beings from another world who didn't follow the rules of war the humans understood. "On you, Sergeant," Hughes said, his voice low. Johnson gave a single nod and crept forward, his massive form barely making a sound as he slipped through the underbrush. His years of combat experience had taught him the art of patience, the delicate balance between silence and violence. He'd been the first to volunteer for this mission, and for good reason. No one was better suited to infiltrate alien positions and leave destruction in their wake. Within moments, a sharp, almost imperceptible crack echoed through the forest as Johnson took down the first sentry. The second didn't have time to react before Johnson's hand was around his throat, a swift motion that left him incapacitated without a single scream. "2 down," Johnson reported, his voice calm, steady. "We're clear to move forward." Hughes felt a slight sense of relief, but knew it would be short-lived. They had made it past the first hurdle, but the real danger lay ahead. The Azartian fortress was a labyrinth. The fortress loomed before them, a grotesque sprawl of metal and stone, its jagged architecture blending unnervingly with the jagged cliffside. Hughes stood still for a moment, eyes locked on the monolithic structure, feeling the weight of what was to come. He wasn't used to feeling the rush of uncertainty. Battle was something he understood, something he could control. But this was different. It wasn't just a matter of tactics anymore. It was about survival. The aliens had been clear. Humanity had no place in the galaxy unless it bent to their will. And if they failed now, Earth would fall to dust beneath the Azartian heel. "General, we've got to move." Owen's voice came through his calm, breaking his reverie. The tech genius's voice was tight, his nerves fraying as the seconds ticked by. Hughes nodded, not needing to say anything. Every moment they spent standing there only increased the risk of discovery. The rest of the team was positioned around the fortress, ready for the assault. But Hughes knew this was the part of the plan where everything could come undone. They had one shot, one opportunity to strike a blow to the heart of the Azartian operation. If they failed, this would be their last mission. Johnson was already ahead, moving with the stealth and grace of a predator in the shadows. His large frame was deceptive. He could blend into the surroundings with ease, and his sharp eyes caught every movement, every whisper of a threat. He'd been quiet since their initial assault on the sentries, his focus unbreakable. It was clear to Hughes that the stakes weighed heavily on the sergeant's mind. But that was Johnson's way. He didn't talk much. He just did. The team moved forward, inching closer to the entrance of the fortress. Ahead, the shimmering energy field that surrounded the facility hummed like a living thing, its pulsating rhythm signaling danger. No human technology could break through it, not without a specific deactivation code, and Hughes had no intention of wasting time trying to hack it. "Owens, you're up," Hughes muttered. The young lieutenant tapped into his wrist console, fingers flying over the holographic interface. "Give me a few seconds. I've been studying their security protocols," Owens said, his voice strained. "The energy field's frequency is based on quantum encryption. If I time it just right, I can reverse the polarity." Hughes clenched his jaw. The whole plan hinged on Owens' ability to bypass the Azartians' seemingly invincible security. If the tech didn't work, they'd be trapped in an alien stronghold with no way out. It was a dangerous gamble, but they had no other option. A sudden, sharp hiss broke through the air, and Hughes turned to see the energy field flicker, then disappear completely. The entire entrance to the fortress was now open, and Owens stood, panting, his face pale from the strain. "Nice work," Hughes said, his voice clipped. They had no time to waste. With the entrance now clear, the team surged forward, weapons drawn, senses heightened. Every corner, every darkened hallway was a potential death trap. The air felt thick with anticipation. There were no sounds inside, no signs of movement. But Hughes knew better than to trust silence. They moved in, quickly clearing the first few rooms, their footsteps muffled on the stone floors. Johnson led the way, his large form moving fluidly, a stark contrast to the others, who tread lightly in his wake. Garcia's team, positioned on the exterior, was ready to provide air support if needed, but Hughes knew the real danger would be inside. The interior of the fortress was a chilling blend of technology and alien architecture, curved walls adorned with strange symbols that glowed faintly, as if alive. The alien machines hummed quietly in the background, a constant reminder that they were not on their home turf. But as they advanced deeper into the structure, it became clear that the Azartians had not anticipated this kind of direct attack. "We're getting close to the central hub," Owens murmured, his fingers dancing over his wrist console. "I'm hacking into their network now. If we're going to disable their communications, it has to be now." Hughes could feel the tension in the air, the weight of their mission pressing in on him. "Stay focused. We take down the hub, We cripple their command. They rounded a corner, and that's when it happened. A high-pitched alarm blared, echoing through the halls, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy boots hitting the floor. "They're on to us," Johnson muttered, his voice low but with a hint of urgency. In the blink of an eye, the team split, each member moving into position as automatic defenses came online. Alien soldiers, taller, more agile, and quicker than any human could hope to be, flooded the hallway, weapons drawn. Hughes didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle and took the first shot, the blast sending one of the invaders crashing to the ground. "Move, move, move," he barked, the words a guttural growl. The mission had gone from infiltration to full-scale assault in seconds. Johnson was the first to react, his massive body charging forward with the speed and power of a freight train. He tackled one of the Azartians head first, sending the creature sprawling into the walls, while his rifle tore through the air, cutting down another. The rest of the team wasn't far behind. Owens ducked low, tapping furiously on his wrist console, overriding the enemy's weapon systems with rapid precision. One by one, the alien soldiers' weapons powered down, leaving them vulnerable to the human assault. Garcia's jets roared overhead, launching missiles into the fortress's outer walls. The entire structure shook with the force of the explosions, sending a shower of debris crashing down. The team pressed forward, each member more determined than ever. There was no turning back now. "Hubs down," Owens called out, his voice filled with both relief and exhaustion. But the Queen's still here. Hughes didn't need any more words. The mission had shifted. They weren't just attacking the fortress. They were coming for her. The Queen, the leader of the Azartian invaders, would be the final blow. They moved deeper into the fortress, now more determined than ever, knowing that with each step they took, they were rewriting the fate of humanity. The halls of the Azartian fortress seemed to grow darker as they pressed forward. Every footstep echoed, bouncing off the walls in an unsettling rhythm. The deeper they went, the more alien the structure became, its architecture an impossible tangle of smooth curves and sharp angles that seemed to defy logic. But it was the atmosphere that was truly oppressive, a heavy silence that clung to them like a fog. Hughes couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, waiting. "We're close," Owens said, his voice quiet but sharp with purpose. He'd been silent for most of the assault, his focus entirely on overriding Azartian systems and ensuring the team was moving undetected. His fingers never stopped working, tapping commands into his wrist console as if the world depended on it. "We need to find the Queen," Hughes muttered, his eyes scanning every corner. No time to waste. The air in the corridor grew colder as they approached the heart of the fortress. The walls seemed to pulse with a low, rhythmic hum, as though the very structure was alive. Hughes had seen plenty of strange things in his time in the military, but this was something else entirely. The Azartians weren't just invaders. They were something beyond human understanding. Johnson, always the first to act, was already on the move. His massive frame was a shadow in the dim light, his eyes sharp and alert as he cleared the path ahead. He moved with practiced ease, his military training blending seamlessly with his natural instincts. In moments like these, when every second counted, it was Johnson's composure that Hughes relied on most. His men were all seasoned, but Johnson was something more, a warrior in the truest sense of the word. Suddenly, the corridor widened into a large, circular chamber. At the far end of the room stood a throne, made of shimmering black metal that seemed to absorb light. And sitting upon that throne was the Azartian Queen. She was an imposing figure, towering over the humans like a statue carved from the void itself. Her skin shimmered like polished obsidian. Her eyes glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. The moment they entered, her gaze shifted toward them, her lips curling into a smile that sent a chill down Hughes's spine. "So the humans have come to fight," she said, her voice a cold, melodic sound that reverberated through the chamber. "How quaint! Did you think you could challenge us? We are beyond your reach." Hughes didn't hesitate. His men were already moving into position, their weapons drawn. The mission was simple: kill the Queen, end the war. But something in the Queen's eyes made him pause. There was no fear there, only calculation. She wasn't just another enemy to be shot down. She was the leader of a species that had traveled across the stars, that had wiped out entire civilizations. She wasn't going to go down easily. "General Hughes," the Queen said, her voice smooth as silk, "do you think your species is capable of defeating us? You, who have only just begun to venture into the stars. Your planet is insignificant, and your resistance is laughable. What can you possibly hope to accomplish here? We're fighting for survival." Hughes snapped. "You've given us no choice." The Queen stood from her throne, her long, flowing robes trailing behind her like a dark cloud. With a single wave of her hand, the ground beneath them rumbled. The walls shifted, and massive, alien weapons emerged from hidden recesses, trained,